All right, we're back with another Dekks and Dera podcast. A lot has happened. Probably the biggest patch we've seen since like global launch, maybe. Well, maybe not quite the biggest, but a lot has happened. What are your impressions here, Dekkster? What happened?
I'm loving it. You know, we were talking the last one. It really needed to land, and I feel like it did. I think the meta's quite healthy right now. Maybe aside from a couple hiccups or frustrating things, but we can get into that later.
So what happened? What were the big changes? What ended up coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, they buffed Leader, your favorite card.
They buffed Leader. Who would have guessed?
Yeah.
I did say that I think Leader was a card I was hoping would get a little bit of love eventually, but they actually brought it back in a meaningful way, right?
Yeah, I think when we were talking about buffs we wanted to see, we were talking about cards like Leader, because Leader just got absolutely destroyed, and he was pretty much just useless, never played, unless you got him off of like Raft or something. But now, with some experimentation, like he might be okay, maybe in like ramp decks or something like that.
Yeah, I've been seeing him a lot in ramp decks. The meta has been shaken up quite a bit, I would say, just from a standpoint of we saw Shuri get nerfed. I think the Shuri nerf is like probably the best thing they could have done. It did not kill the card, but I almost see no Shuri. I don't know about you. Do you see any Shuri anymore?
Yeah, I remember like the first couple days I saw like no Shuri. I think I was the first person I saw play Shuri. She really is limited now in the way that you can play her. Like a lot of play patterns from the past are no longer available. Your pants are kind of down to getting Shang-Chi'd. Like if you're trying to Galactus and put Shuri into Hobgoblin, you can't really Galactus that lane anymore. But yeah, she's not great, but not awful.
Yeah, I think it got to that really happy medium spot where it just like it feels like Cosmo was the real thing driving the Shuri deck to like its tier 1 status where it was unbeatable, because there weren't really any good counters to it, because Cosmo just shuts down all the counters. And this change was a really nice change that made it so that just Cosmo is basically eliminated from the equation, and now it can be countered, and now people just don't want to run Shuri. So if people aren't running counters, which they are right now, everyone's running Shang-Chi, I feel like, in general. So it's just like that card is a timeless card that I don't know if it'll ever leave the meta, but it's just like it's not as easy to protect your cards, because even if you put it behind armor, there's cards like Valkyrie that can still affect them. Cosmo was just stopping this.
Right.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. I'm very happy with the changes to Shuri, and I think it's developed a healthy metagame.
Yeah, I think so. Like we also saw a new card come into play last week, Jeff. Which, do you think it's impacted the metagame at all, or what do you think?
I think Jeff is a fun card. He's pretty decent. He's good. I don't think he's like amazing or anything like that. I don't think he's impacted the meta too much. I think Jeff is actually like best played when people don't expect him. So I feel like he'll get better with time. When people don't expect him, he's kind of like a tech card, where if you play like a Professor X, people think, oh, you know, they lost this lane or whatever. But then boom, you slam Jeff down and you steal the cubes from them. But right now, it's kind of expected, I think. But I think there's only in really high collection levels, and lower collection levels, I don't think that many people have access to Jeff.
Yeah, that's the problem with all the new cards, I guess. But so would you say Jeff is better or worse than you were expecting? Because I remember last week you had very high hopes for Jeff, and you were saying, I think this will be a crazy good new card. And I was like the one more on the lines of like, I think it's a little overrated, you know?
I think he's great in the right decks, such as Cerebro 3. I haven't played enough Cerebro 3. I made like one YouTube video on it, and it did fantastic while I was playing it. I think that was like launch day of Jeff. And he is, I think, fantastic there. I need to experiment more again, but he's pretty good. He's cuttable, though, I think, and you'll be okay without him. Like putting a Colossus or something, or a Sentinel, you know, might just be fine instead of Jeff in that archetype. So I guess he's a bit underwhelming
Yeah.
in that sense to me, but still
Worth picking up?
a good card. Worth picking up. Not for 6,000 collector's tokens, I don't think. For me, making YouTube videos on him, I think it was definitely worth it. But I think for the average player, he's not worth 6,000. 3,000? I don't even know if he's worth 3,000. I'll be honest with you.
Not even worth 3,000. Wow. From the high praise of this might be the best new card that we're seeing for a while, and now you're saying not even worth 3,000.
I said the best new card since Hitmonkey. And you know what was after Hitmonkey?
I got you. Yeah. That is true.
It was Snowguard.
Yeah.
Definitely 10 times better than Snowguard.
Yeah, Snowguard, they couldn't pay me tokens to pick up. But Jeff, I think Jeff is definitely a fun card. I personally had a lot of fun playing the decks with Jeff. Like, I actually did pretty well with 2 decks with him. Like, one was Cerebro 3. I put together one Cerebro 3 list that actually did really bad. And then I swapped a couple cards to make it a little bit better. And I think the new list that I found actually worked really well together. I'll probably make a YouTube video out of it eventually. The new Jeff Cerebro 3. Because I feel like it is a pretty high performing deck, I think, for Cerebro 3. And I've seen a couple people shit on Cerebro 3. They say it's a for fun bad deck, but I think it actually is a very skill testing deck. I think it's a very high skill cap deck that the stats will always look worse for high skill testing decks because when new players try them, they're going to perform really badly. And by new players, I mean new to the deck. So the stats will look really bad. But if you basically could exclude all of the people's first 50 games playing with the deck, and then you look at all the games after like the first 50 games and they're now proficient with the deck, I think you'd see a much, much higher win rate than you would see with some other decks. Like there's going to be high rates of improvement with people playing this deck, I think.
Yeah, I think it is very skill testing. I think a lot of people just pick it up. They play 10 games. They're like, oh, this sucks. And then they just say it's bad.
Yeah.
But I think they're bad. I think they need to experiment with the deck a little bit more. I know in Hearthstone, like HS Replay, there was a way to filter stats by the person had to play like at least 50 games.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you really know how to play the deck unless you've played like 50 games or so.
Yeah, I
so
think
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, to look at decks, especially, like you have to understand that some decks are very straightforward, easy to play, so the stats will be buffed because all the people that just can get into it immediately and just know how to play it versus decks that are harder to play. The stats might look worse for it, even though it's a better deck than the easy to play deck. I did a lot of analysis while I worked at Blizzard around that exact phenomenon where it's just like really hard to play decks. And I would literally just like eliminate people's first like 50 games from a deck and just try and analyze things around how good decks were after they got good at the deck.
I just sent you a screenshot of my stats with Jeff Cerebro 3. So if you want to throw that up,
let's take a look at it.
But wait,
we got it. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this performed really well for me. If you know, I think the main card here is Bast. If you're trying to play Cerebro 3 deck without Bast, you're messing up. I'll try not to cuss, I think, on the podcast. But yeah, you use Bast, you set everything to 3 power, or if you get Scorpioned, or if a location happens, even like a Wakandan embassy, you actually want to reduce your power back to 3. Maybe you hit Iron Man, you hit Mystique with the Bast, you get to throw both of those down. Magic gives you an additional turn to counter their big play with the Valkyrie. Just make sure you don't get like Reality Stoned or Stormed or Witched or Rhinoed or anything like that. But one of the most fun plays to do also is a Magic Rhino play, where you play Magic on 5,
do like that.
And then on turn 6, you destroy your own Limbo. I absolutely love it. But yeah, I think
did the same thing when I played Cerebro 3. It is really fun.
It is so satisfying to do that.
Yeah.
I think this is in my like top 3 most fun decks at the moment. The only reason I'm not playing more of it is because I think I've probably made like 4 or 5 videos within 2 months on this deck, and people are just not going to click my YouTube videos if I keep making Cerebro 3 videos. But this is strong, and you can see by the stats it performed very, very well for me. It got me 1.64 average cube win rate, But this is pretty much a deck I have hundreds and hundreds of games worth of experience under my belt.
You figured out how to play it, so...
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. Like, you got to make sure you place your Cerebro in the right lane, you place your Mystique in the right lane, you're putting your Cosmo where it belongs, your Magic, your Valkyrie, your Wasp, all that stuff. Like, what turn you play Bast, I think a lot of people see, oh, I have one energy and I have Bast in my hand. Let me play Bast. Right. And no, that's a big mistake. Huge sometimes mistake. You don't play Bast until turn 6 sometimes. So... yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. I did notice in this deck, so we're running Jeff, but we're not running any lockdown. We're not running Professor X. We're not running Storm. Explain your thoughts around not running Professor X in this deck, which is a 3 power card.
I do want to experiment with Professor X in a deck like this. I just don't know what card to cut for him. It probably would be something like Killmonger in this build.
Yeah, so I did a deck.
A very heavy list.
Yeah, so I did a deck. Let me pull it up here real quick. There.
Was your name Shroud right now?
My alt account is named Shroud right now. So
that's funny.
I played Cerebro 3. I had an 80% win rate with it, and then I lost my last 2 games I played with it, and it dropped down to like a 60% or last 4
What's your cube win rate though?
It's only 1 right now.
Not bad.
I pumped a little bit, but it was like I think that this deck, I ran Professor X in mine. I also was experimenting a few different builds, so this isn't all 20 games. It's not from like the same. I guess I swapped around like 1 or 2 cards in here. So like I put in Adam, I think is an interesting card to add, and Mysterio I was trying out. So I really wanted to try. I know Mysterio is 4 power, but with Bast you can get 3 3s, and it's basically like a mini Doctor Doom for Cerebro 3. And I was just thinking to myself, there was so many times that I would get like Sandman or something, and that was a big problem for me. With this deck, because the Sandman right now is insane on the ladder. It's everywhere. So I wanted to have something that could like trick the Sandman players. And if you can get like Cerebro down and then have a Bast Blade on a Mysterio in your hand, it really creates some funny situations where you're just playing Mysterio on the last turn.
Yeah. This might be why a lot of people were coming into my chat being like, why don't you run Mysterio? And I was like, I
think we were playing at the same time actually on stream. So like the day this came out. So I think that might be why people were coming in and saying that.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting choice.
I don't think it's good. It's not good.
I think it's awful because then you need to hold on to your Bast until you get your Mysterio. Otherwise, your Mysterio is a dead card. And then the place, or like when you actually play your Bast, it's just too awkward. Like sometimes you play Bast and the next turn you top deck your Mystique and you're like, oh, I wish I waited. Yeah. But it's not a big deal. It's not the end of the game at that point. Yeah. But if you play your Bast and then you top deck your Mysterio, you literally cannot play your Mysterio. Although I guess you could. No, you can't even Valk. You can't Valk.
You can Valk the Mysterio lane. That is the real Mysterio, I'm pretty sure. And it'll be 3 power.
Oh, and then it'll be 3? Yeah. Really?
Yeah, it doesn't add power to it.
Okay, so it just all right. So maybe I can mess around.
We'll see. I think it's more for fun to put Mysterio in rather than like optimal. Which is why I don't think that this is the most optimal version of the deck. I just wanted to try some funny cool plays that would surprise people. I think they're definitely better.
Yeah.
You can see I had another Cerebro 3 list that I created 2 different versions of it just so I could track the stats.
Yeah, don't show that one. Get it off the screen. That's gross.
So it's not that different. The biggest difference is Scarlet Witch. I think Scarlet Witch was trolling me 4 out of 5 games I played it. It just gave me a bad location and it just ruined my game. So I just I don't know.
That's why I never include Scarlet Witch. Another card, people are like, why don't you put Scarlet Witch in your Cerebro 3? I'm like, you realize the whole point I have Rhino and Magic is because I hate the random locations because 60% of them are bad.
Yeah.
So rolling the dice again with Scarlet Witch is not something I want to do because you might end up throwing the game. What if you hit Moor Island or Necrotia or anything like that? Negative Zone, Sewer System, the one that gives you +1, or Wakandan Embassy. There's like, it goes on and on. There's so many bad locations. So I don't think you ever want Witch.
Yeah, I have also found that out the hard way. And I'm just never putting Witch back in a Cerebro 3 deck. I actually had, like, with Witch, there was 3 location changing things. So you had Magic, Rhino, and Scarlet Witch. And just like, it's a lot to be able to change all of them. So it's like, even if you sometimes Witched a bad location, you can Rhino it or Magic it. But it's just like, it was just too bad of a card. And Rhino and Magic are generally enough. Which is why I would probably put Magic back, like cut Mysterio, put Magic in this deck, maybe cut Adam, put something different. I was just trying Adam out. That's why like this deck went through a couple iterations as I was trying it out. But before we put Mysterio is when we had the 80% win rate with this deck. And then we threw in some more fun cards.
Yeah. Adam's also a fun card as well. If you can hit it with Bast, you're very happy.
And even if you don't, you can Wasp Adam like the far right lane and just start drawing early sometimes, and then Valkyrie it later. So it's like not the end of the world either if you just do that.
That's true. What I ended up doing was just dropping Adam for Magic, because you get that 1 extra draw for the extra turn.
That's smart too.
So that's the route I went. I don't know. I really like.
We both. I think you and I have played more Cerebro 3 than most other people. So it's just like it's been one of my favorite decks too to play. That's like more fun deck. But yeah, what do you think of the meta in general right now? I guess like, what are your thoughts?
I think it's in a healthy spot. I know a lot of people are complaining about Sandman, and what's the popularity of Sandman ramp at the moment?
All right, so for everyone listening, we are looking at the tier list for collection level 3000 plus, 70 to 99 player rank. Latest patch excludes hot location, feature location days. That's what we've been looking at for the past couple of weeks to compare. Electro ramp might be the highest percent that we've seen any deck ever be. 17% of the ladder.
Yeah, that's, I'm noticing the easy to play decks tend to have higher popularity. Electro ramp is also, I think, mostly like a pool 3 deck, right? There's no
it's exclusively pool 3 minus. So
it's kind of like a budget deck in a way. So it makes sense. It's kind of taken the place of Shuri as far as popularity, I guess. Although I think Shuri was a little bit more popular.
Was Shuri more than 17% ever? I don't know if it ever broke 17%, but I don't know if we can go back.
Actually, you might be right, but maybe it was like different builds combined, because it was all just a bunch of slightly different decks. I think the main offender here, and the least fun card to play against at the moment, is Sandman.
Sandman.
Sandman. He's just not fun to play against because he might limit your game plan. Although I feel like it's not too frustrating.
But Jeff,
you can kind of play around it.
You can play,
but Jeff,
you can play Jeff out, even though Sandman's on the board. You can play a card and Jeff. Didn't that make it better?
I don't know. Sandman's an interesting one. I don't hate him too much at the moment. A lot of people are complaining about him, though. I think in my personal pocket meta, I don't see that much Sandman. Oh, man. Which is interesting. Must be nice to be me, I'm sure. But the way around Sandman is to just play a Sandman deck as well. But your opponent plays Sandman, and you don't.
Have you been playing Sandman decks?
No, I have not. Okay. I've been really enjoying like Cerebro, as well as like Hitmonkey and Bounce decks,
so you're
which
lucky.
Are absolutely.
If you hit a Sandman deck, you're gonna be dead in the water. I feel like so.
Yeah, so it's rough. But maybe everyone just starts putting Doom in their deck again.
Yeah, I specifically started putting Doom in decks like back when the meta was shifting a little bit away from like Thanos, because I was scared about Sandman. Like, and Sandman did become fairly popular, like very popular right now. I actually, like yesterday, I was playing a lot on ladder. I was facing so much Sandman, and to get into that deck conspiracy thing, I swapped decks to a deck that I thought would be really good against Sandman, which is I played a lot of Hela yesterday, which Hela has better stats than Sandman right now. I was like, Hela, like they don't run Cosmo in this deck. They don't run anything to really stop a Hela deck other than Arrow, potentially if you're running a card like MODOK behind Invisible Woman kind of thing. But the deck it can't really compete in power level. Like a leader doesn't do anything against a Hela, right? Like Dr. Doom's not enough power to beat the Hela. So I was like, I just stopped hitting Sandman. No one was playing Sandman the second I switched to Hela. It was just
that happened to me as well.
Yeah.
I tried Hela and I just stopped seeing Sandman, which was the whole point. I was playing the Hela deck, and then I just started getting crushed. My win rate with Hela was dreadful, but it was fun, I guess.
Yeah, we had a really good win rate with Hela for a bit there. Like I had climbed like 30 cubes with Hela.
Wow.
And then my RNG switched the other way for a little bit and I went down a bit. But unfortunately it didn't capture like 20 cubes of my games yesterday because Untap, I switched accounts. Untap might need to fix this, but when you switch accounts mid like session, like I was on my alt account and I switched to my main account, it stops tracking correctly. So it didn't capture. I had to restart the app. So my things say -15, but it should be like +5.
Yeah, me too.
I know it is like one of those things where it's like, yeah, me too. But there is a full VOD to prove that fact. Just so anyone, it's good. I trust me, it's good. I'm not lying here. It is.
I think the best way to counter Sandman right now is actually Patriot, right?
Yeah, so Patriot right now is one of the best performing decks, probably because of the popularity of Electro Ramp being 17%. Patriot being 9%, probably just like straight up good against countering Sandman right now.
Yeah, another relatively budget deck here. Basically, game plan is you play Patriot, maybe you play Mystique, they play Sandman, you play Ultron, and then you have all these big boys spread across the board, and they have one card. So,
yep.
Or maybe they play like Doom, but Ultron's bots with all those buffs kind of just beats that. And then Patriot's just good in general against pretty much anything. I know it struggled against Shuri decks.
It struggles a bit against Sarah Control. Is one thing because they run Killmonger, Shang-Chi, and Enchantress. So. Sarah Control, not as popular as I thought it would be right now. I think it just might be, there's a couple different lists that kind of are like Sarah Control that just separated out in the data.
Well, you got Sarah Surfer there, which is also relatively similar.
Yeah,
right?
Then they also have like a Control archetype down at the bottom that's like 3.3%. They just have like a couple different, like Toxic Sarah's its own archetype, which is kind of still like its own, like it's still Sarah Control. It's just like runs a different couple. So they have a couple things in here that's separated out. So I think it's more like 5% of the meta, but at least.
But this tier list that we're looking at right now, we have how many cards in eight decks in the A tier. Yeah. This is the most diverse meta I've ever seen. Well, I feel like every time I'm playing against a different deck.
In the sense of win rate and cube rate, meaning that like anything can win, but it's not that diverse in sense of what's being played because Electro Ramp and Galactus are more than Thanos, or like at least the same as what Thanos and Shuri were before.
Yeah, there's a lot of
there's not as good.
What the popularity isn't there, but the viability is there. There's a lot of viable decks, but yeah.
I think it's healthy for the meta, actually. I think it's fine that these, like, it's fine-ish, I should say, that these decks are very popular because it's much better when a not so dominating deck is popular versus decks that you just can't beat are popular, right? Because now you can at least experiment and try some things that will beat these decks. Like Galactus has a below 50% win rate, and it's just very popular. It's just like both, like you said earlier, Electro Ramp and Galactus are very straightforward decks. They are kind of easier to play. So maybe people are just playing them and they just because they're able to see some success with them without actually learning how to play, taking the time to learn how to play a difficult deck, right? So, and the gameplay patterns just come to them naturally.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Shuri playstyle right now. It's like, I play Electro on 3, and then I play Sandman on 4, and then I play Doom on 5, and then I play Odin on 6. Like, that's it. It's very straightforward, unlike Cerebro 3, or like a Hitmonkey deck, which, it's a lot of variance in all those games, which is why I like them, or in all those decks. But Electro Ramp, kind of like the go-to Brain dead deck. I feel
like would you
that's a
say
hard
a
word.
leader brain deck?
A leader brain deck. Yeah, it's like the Shuri deck of the time, but power level is not there, but popularity very, very popular. So get used to seeing Sandman. So I think a good thing to just talk about is how to counter this, because I think a lot of people are frustrated by it, and it seems like Patriot's the way to go, right?
Yeah.
Patriot, Hella, maybe. What else is good against it? Darkhawk?
I think Darkhawk, yes. Darkhawk is another one that is very good against it. This list made by Cozy, I believe. This is his Rocks and Hawks deck. Hawks and Rocks. It's one of those. But he really touts this deck, and it is very popular, and it's very good. I personally also like the mold decks, which is just like another take on this Darkhawk list, just with Master Mold and Ronin instead of Devil Dino stuff. And that performs really well against it as well, just because you can get two big lanes with this, because Darkhawk can be big, Devil Dino or Mold or Ronin can be big, like depending on what you're playing. So it's just like if you're able to get two big lanes, Sandman can't really counter that very well.
But it's you, me, and two other people in the world who have mold, so I don't think anyone can play that build. So the Devil Dinosaur one kind of works.
So I think the Devil Dinosaur one is slightly worse against Sandman, because this one kind of relies on like the Quinjet Moon Girl interaction with She-Hulk. So you want to be playing multiple cards on your last turn with this version. So it's a little bit like my version runs Doctor Doom, which is good against Sandman, right? Because you're able to spread out power. So that's one of the things is like I specifically built my deck, the mold deck. There, we can pull it up because it actually performed really well this season. This version,
you haven't changed a single card here. This is a large sample size.
I have it does keep. I have switched around like one or two cards in it, but it doesn't change. It keeps it all bucketed together in one sample size. It doesn't.
I played this deck of yours. I'm gonna send you a screenshot so you can show people the stats.
We'll take a look at the stats here. Let me open this up.
Wait, is it your exact deck? Okay, I have Shang instead of Enchant.
Yeah, no, I've swapped around like one or two cards in it just depending on my pocket meta. So it's like there's a couple flex cards. So in the deck that you like, Scorpion is a flex card, I think, in this version. I think Lizard's technically a flex card. Shang is even a flex card, but I think right now you just don't want to be cutting Shang. So it's just like, and Zabu I think is actually a flex card if you cut enough of your 4-drops. So it's like with only 3 4-drops, Zabu's like a maybe. I think with 4 you definitely want Zabu. So it's like I swapped Scorpion in my current version of the deck for Enchantress, or so Scorpion for Enchantress, and that's like the only difference right now. So it's like I'm just swapping things around. So it's like this is good against like Patriot and some other stuff that was happening on the ladder.
Yeah.
I think I had specifically put it in because I played this deck for a little bit during the Onslaught Citadel hot location. So that was just like I needed to just put something in here for that. But this deck specifically was teched against potential Sandman people, potential Wave people. So it's like I had multiple answers for multiple different decks. It performed well against a Sandman deck, like that you can run into, I guess, on the ladder all the time. So it's just like I saw it all the time. I was gonna say I climbed this season with this deck mostly doing a challenge, the Pumper Gauntlet, which was I did not retreat a single game and I snapped turn 1 every single game, and this deck took me to infinite. So I thought that was with a 70% win rate.
This deck is incredible. I think it's very good, and the reason that no one is playing it or talking about it is because no one has mold.
Yeah,
mold is he's a big piece of this puzzle because he makes Darkhawk and Ronin both very good. I don't know if we talked about this before or if I just talked about it on my stream, but it kind of reminds me of how good Shuri was when she was like Series 5. Yep. She was cracked. She was so good, but no one was crying about her until she hit Series 4. Once she hit Series 4, a lot of people got their hands on her, and she was, just disrupting the meta, and sample sizes just went up. I think that's kind of going to happen to this deck. But I think this deck is a little bit counterable by playing something like Hit Monkey, where your hand size will be small and you still make large boards. But yeah, this is a very strong and underplayed deck. But it's understandable why it's underplayed. It's because it's for whales like Dera, who has spent over $3,000 on Marvel Snap.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that people just can't get access to the mold. But it's like you had said, like 2 or 3 weeks ago in the podcast, you were like, I had a different experience with mold. Like when we first talked about I just won the tournament with this deck, and you were like, mold was bad, is what you thought. So it's just like, I think it just required the right package. And a lot of people, now that they're seeing it, I've heard from like people in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, a lot of people have been saying like, I saw Dera win with this deck. He had so much fun on stream with this deck, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I picked up mold. So I think I've done more to sell mold than like anyone at Second Dinner. I like, it's just like, people have been picking it up. I think it's fun. I think the second it drops down a tier, I think we'll see a lot more mold. And as you point out, like it'll become a lot more popular, a lot more strong.
I think that's the thing, is like, I thought mold was bad until we had our first episode, I think it was. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, mold sucks. I don't like mold. But I was playing it with weird stuff like Baron Mordo. And like Black Widow or something. I don't know. But cards. Like I was trying to make Darkhawk and Ronin work to like, and then I just stopped experimenting with it. I tried it for a few hours and I was like, all right, I'm done with this. Yeah. But you found like, I think this is the perfect 11 or something like that. And then you just, one card is a flex, like that Enchantress. Sometimes it's Scorpion. Sometimes it's, I don't know, maybe you put Cosmo in 10. There.
I think,
who knows?
Well, like Enchantress and Lizard, I think you can swap out. Lizard is really good, just in a card in general, but it's like you could swap it out if you need a tech selling in. Like, and technically Zabu is slightly flexible as well. But
I think in this sense, though, it might be the perfect 12 because sometimes you just want those flex spots for a surprise card.
Yep.
Sometimes Enchantress gets you 8 cubes.
Yep.
Because people forget about it. They're like, oh, this deck's not running Enchantress, or maybe you end up switching Enchantress for a Cosmo to just,
I did have Cosmo in this for a while. Killmonger was also in that flex slot for a while. Like Killmonger during like the Thanos and bounce meta, it was really good because people were running a lot of like, you just get that last turn, kill all their demons, I beat Jeff with that Killmonger in this deck. Like that was just like, it was a very like important tech card in this deck.
Yeah. So if anyone has molds, be sure to try this out if you haven't yet. It's a ton of fun.
And it'll get you infinite.
It'll get you infinite.
Guaranteed.
Or else, or else, I don't know. But if you're listening to the podcast, you obviously can't see the deck list. You can search, this deck is crazy. Ronin finally has a home. That's the title of my YouTube video. Do you have a video on this?
I have one video from like before the tournament where I played a variation of this. That's not the exact 12. So it's like an older version of it that wasn't quite as refined. So I haven't made a new video on it since I won the tournament. So I probably should.
Yeah, you should.
I think since I used it to climb this season to Infinite, I might make one explaining the gameplay patterns of it. So I think that'll be good because I played a lot of games with this deck. A lot.
And when's mold getting series dropped?
Let's take a look. Let's find out. So mold is getting series dropped according to our official list here. He is getting dropped down into May. So he's getting next month. Next month he gets dropped.
Next month.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Then we'll definitely be seeing a lot more mold at that point.
Yep. So that means August to Series 3. But yeah.
We do have, these weekly over-the-air balance changes. I think the first one is going to be
next Thursday,
which will be the 27th.
Thursday.
So yeah, this Thursday.
This Thursday.
The 27th. That'll be interesting. I'm curious to see what they change. I wonder if it'll be Sandman dropping down a power or something.
Will that really solve the problem with Sandman though? Like it's already not a good card, so it's just like we're looking at the Sandman. It's like already a very average win rate deck. Like it's barely positive cubes. Like will dropping it down 1 power make people stop playing the deck? I don't think so. I think it'll still be played, and I just think it'll be slightly lower win rate. I don't know if it'll be enough.
Yeah, I think he's not too much of a problem. He's just very frustrating to play against. Yeah. I feel like maybe the way to fix him is to give him the leech treatment, where his effect is just applied on the last turn or something like that, or like the next turn, or turn 6 or something like that. That would
solve the Electro Sandman problem, because basically you get 1 extra turn to. But I doubt they would ever implement the same exact fix that they did to Leech to Sandman. That seems like they wouldn't want to make 2 cards just like the same kind of thing.
I really, really miss the days of 4 energy Sandman. There was a point in time where I think Sandman was 4 energy, and Zabu, you could do Zabu Sandman. Oh, those were the days. You just get them out so consistently, either Psylocke or you play Zabu, and then you play Sandman, and there were 3 turns where your opponent could only play 1 card. Those were the days. All right. Anyways,
but what were you playing on those 3 turns? Like I actually never really played that deck back when Zabu Sandman was a thing.
I think I was going something like Ronin into Mystique into maybe it was just like
Doom or something. I don't know.
Maybe it's Doom. Maybe it was Doom.
Leader?
I don't remember. I'd have to look up my video. Oh God, no! Don't say that word around me.
Have you not played Leader? I actually saw you play Leader on stream a little bit.
I tried playing Leader. I tried playing a ramp deck with Leader and Sandman. I think it was just very similar to this Electro ramp deck. And I was like, I actually don't want to make a video on this because I feel like I have some influence in the meta. And I don't want to make it even more popular because I don't think it's fun to play against.
I'll make the video.
I also don't think it's fun to play.
Yeah.
I think that was the problem. I think while I was playing it, in my head, I'm like, I would rather do something else right now.
Speaking about fun to play, I made an Electro ramp deck that was a little bit more fun to play. I thought it would be more interesting, so I created Jeff Electro ramp, which is basically Electro ramp, but we throw in Professor X and Jeff into the deck. So it becomes a little bit more fun because you get to have...
you can Electro into X?
Yep. You can Electro into Professor X, and then you can Sandman also with Jeff as being an extra play on top of your Sandman. And you can put it into your Ebony Maw lane, you can put it into your X lane. So it's just like, it's a little bit interesting gameplay patterns. I thought was fun. Yeah. And it had a 70% win rate, so it's like it's not bad. It's
not bad. Yeah. I feel like the win rate would go down the more you play this one because I feel like Jeff and Sandman is kind of copium because after you play Sandman, you want to play like Arrow and Leader.
Yeah, I mean you still can
do them.
It's just like the problem is like you don't quite have enough ramp to play a 6 cost and Jeff on the last turn. That would be nice if you could. Like if Jeff was a 1 cost, it would be really nice.
Make him a 1/2. Make him purple.
But you could give Nightcrawler the Jeff treatment and like let you play Nightcrawler anywhere. I think
I feel like that'd be fitting of Nightcrawler, right? I guess I don't know too much about Nightcrawler.
Because it could teleport into anything, right? Like,
yeah. Well,
I actually don't know anything about Jeff the character, so
me neither. But everyone loves him for some reason.
He's cute.
Yeah, gotta love Jeff.
So Jeff came out last week. Next week we have a new card, Stegron.
What a card. This is a 4/5 with the on reveal, move an enemy card from here to another location. So kind of like a Juggernaut, but you can move a random card at that location.
It moves cards that are already
to
played.
Choose.
Yeah, so it's like it doesn't have to be played the same turn as this card. It's like a Juggernaut after the fact. And you know what card is good with Juggernaut? Well, it's like this is technically like you want to not have priority in if you want to play this in like a storm lane, right? Like you can move the card that they played there, but I might accidentally like move any other card that they've already played there. But there is one card that Juggernaut has been partnered with. I think that this card would be good with as well, and maybe might see a little bit more play, and that's Kingpin. You know?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Like Kingpin, you move it on turn 6. They don't really have a say, and then you just destroy it and you win. But there are 3 lanes. So what if we locked one down?
Yeah, exactly. You Professor X one lane, and then you have a Kingpin in the other lane, and then you Stegron the other lane, and if they don't fill up the Kingpin lane, a card's dying. It's just going to die.
Yeah, I think this could be a fun archetype. Maybe Kingpin finally sees a little bit of experimentation. Yeah. Play Kingpin on 3, you play X on 5, and then on your final turn you can Stegron. Maybe you can also have Magneto in your deck as a backup if you don't draw your Stegron. Stegron also works with like Zabu, so maybe you have these miracle turns with the Zabu. Are you able to play Kingpin and then move a card into him in the same turn if you play him on 6?
Yes, you can. So
you could do something like Sarah instead of X. But that'd be weird. I don't know. I'm just thinking of things off the top of my head. But if you had Zabu,
you could still do Kingpin Stegron.
Zabu. But then why aren't people playing X and then Juggernaut Kingpin right now?
They do. Specimen plays that day. Specimen though. It's just not very consistent. You can fill up the lane pretty easily. That's the main thing. Like Juggernaut requires them to play into the other lane, where Stegron doesn't require that. So that's why it's going to be a little bit better, because you can just kill another card if they don't fill up the Kingpin lane.
Stegron Absorbing Man.
Also interesting. But it's like, I think a turn 6 play with Stegron could be like Stegron Lizard. You play Lizard in the same lane as this. That's 10 power in the lane because you're moving a card out of there. So Lizard now gets the full power no matter what, right? Like as long as there's space for a card to move. So it's like a pretty decent play if you want to, like, if you've locked down another lane or something, or you have enough power in another lane that you're guaranteed that lane, you can Stegron Lizard. There are going to be some options here, I think, with Stegron.
Yeah, he's a fun card. I will personally be picking him up. I don't know if I can recommend that to other people until he's been played around with a little bit. So maybe just, keep refreshing my YouTube channel.
Yeah, for sure. I think he is one of those cards that like looks strong on paper, I feel like, but 4-cost cards, only 5 power. It's one of those things that like it could go a lot of ways depending on how the meta shakes out. Like I think he will be good though. I just don't know how good. I think it'll be above average at the very least. I don't think it'll be a top like must-have card, but I think it'll be better than like Shanna and Dazzler,
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I didn't pick up Shanna or Dazzler, but Stegron looks like he'd at least be a lot of fun.
I think move stuff in general, and there were leaks, I guess, about what's coming out in the not next season, but the season after next season, in June. And it's going to be all around movement cards. So there's a couple cards that all deal with moving. We'll talk about those later, though, not in this podcast. But move is going to have its day, I think. So
I'm excited. I love move decks. I love monkey decks. I love move decks. And I love Cerebro 3.
Yeah, Cerebro 3. But what don't you love?
And Sentry.
Well, one thing I don't love right now? There are 2 things I don't love. But one of them being, I played a lot on my second account. I just went on it yesterday or 2 days ago, I guess. I every single season I go on my alt account and I get infinite with like a smaller collection level, and it just reminds me every time how annoying the experience is to deal with not having all the cards and just like having to collect the cards in a very obtuse way, where you can't choose a card. So it's like in pool 3, because I'm like 1900 collection level on the second account. Like I pick up the season passes on my second account because it's like $10. You get a Series 5 card, and some extra resources or whatever, it's a good deal. I think everyone should be picking up season passes if you can afford it, because it's a really good deal. But you just can't play those cards sometimes because it's requiring you to have like one extra card to play it efficiently. Like, so the latest Hitmonkey card, you really need Mysterio for Hitmonkey to be very powerful, right? So it's like, I don't have Mysterio on my alt account, and you can't pick it up in any meaningful way, like unless I'm literally checking the shop every like 8 hours and trying to hunt that Mysterio down over the course of a month. You know, it's like, it requires some dedication, and it's just like, it's really annoying that they like bake that into like their whole system of like, you have to do this to be able to like unlock the one card you want, and you can only target one card per month. And it's just like, if I get the season pass, I need to target specifically that one card I need to play with that card, because the previous season pass with Nimrod, you needed like Destroyer to make that work, or Arnim Zola. I didn't have either of those cards either to play with Nimrod, so I couldn't play with Nimrod on my alt account. So it's like, Nimrod was out, Hitmonkey was out. It's like, what can I do if I'm not Series 3 complete? It's like really annoying. And I hope they make it so you can target just any card eventually. Like, I think the shop is up too, so I think it, like the way it rotates through just is a bad user experience that feels bad. And it, like, if you're gonna give them one free card a month, just let the people choose, you know?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think there is a discussion that could be had around like the value of collector's tokens at the moment. People are still valuing them the same, but you can't even buy Series 3 cards anymore. You have to buy 4s or 5s. You only get one free Series 3 per season, right?
Yep.
Other than that, you have to get it from the caches. So I think the value of collector's tokens has dropped drastically for most players. It's hard to be like, oh, you know, you got to play the Bast Valkyrie deck. It's very good. I think Valkyrie and Bast are now both Series 3. But if you get Bast, you might have to wait a whole month before you can get Valkyrie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's frustrating. I wish you still had the opportunity to buy a Series 3. Like your first one is free. Maybe your second one is 2,000. Your third one of the month is 3,000 or something.
I would
like
be
that.
fine with that as
like,
well. I just, the one thing I really dislike is just the rotations through the shop that you have to check on it constantly. Like, they're trying to build up that like loyalty of or like the habit of a person to check their shop. So they want you to be logging in every 8 hours, that's the whole reason. It's kind of like a scummy way to increase engagement though. Cause it's just like, I think it's just there to increase engagement. It doesn't actually add any value other than that. Like, there are other ways to increase engagement that don't require you to like be locked out of playing the game, like in a way that you want to be playing it, I think.
Yeah, card acquisition still needs to be worked on. I think it's easy for content creators like us to like lose sight of that because we have large collections.
Yep.
So yeah, you starting up a second account really puts a different perspective on it, which I kind of wanted to do that too, but for some reason, like content around that doesn't perform well.
You got to make
people
challenges.
get mad at you.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, you're playing against new players and you're destroying them. That's not nice. And they get upset with you.
So with the latest
like,
patch,
right.
actually, there is a new change that once you get to Infinite, it now opens you up to all players. So even if you're a low collection level, you now face all collection levels once you get to Infinite. So they no longer have collection level limitations in the Infinite rank. So once you get to Infinite, you're no longer beating up on new players. But I actually don't play on my new accounts anymore once I get to Infinite, so it doesn't really affect me. But
I've noticed it's been really easy to climb this month with the recent changes, the additional 5 cubes, and I feel like I'm playing a decent amount of bots or like players with small collection levels.
Yeah,
because I am just soaring through the ranks and I'm not even trying.
Wow, look at you, the guy who didn't study for the test and got a 100. This is
not it's not a humble brag. It's like I think
it's not a humble
just
brag, but you know, all right.
It's really changed quite a bit because I feel like I'm not doing anything different and I'm just winning more. And I think it's because I'm playing against players with smaller collection levels or something like that, or maybe I am just playing against more bots, but I don't think
is
I
it
am,
in Infinite
good
rank
at
that you
spotting
think
bots.
That's happening? Like in Infinite, you're
like
having
today I'm gonna hit 120.
Oh wow. Look at you.
And I feel like this might be the season I played second least. The least I played was last month.
Maybe
just
you
Shuri was just rampant.
the meta, you know? That might just
I don't What rank are you?
I mean, I haven't played much in Infinite on my main account since I switched to my alt account. So I think I'm like 108 or something right now. I haven't really like I also like spent a long time getting to Infinite. I only did like 3 streams in the first like 2 weeks. So I've been really slacking this month. It's just like it's not because the meta's been terrible or anything. I just haven't been playing as much as I probably have in the past. I don't know what it is. I've been real life busy, I think, is one thing. But
yeah, that's a good excuse. Do you feel like you've been seeing more bots?
So I think with the latest patch, it's supposed to reduce the number of bots in Infinite, but I think bots in general have still just been a consistent problem, especially at the top MMR. But it's just like bots in general, just like for me, are a problem with the game. This was my second problem I was bringing up. But it's just, if you're high enough MMR, they haven't done anything yet to reset anyone's MMR, and they don't allow you, like if you're climbing now, your MMR is high and you're not in Infinite yet, you no longer can face Infinite players. So you're just pretty much only getting bots. On my second account, I face probably like 90% bots on my climb, which is just like, what am I even playing at that point? It's just all bots. It's just like, so I had to build like a bot farming deck to,
yeah,
it just didn't even matter what I played. I couldn't play what I wanted to. I had to play a deck that beats bots.
A KM Best deck.
A KM Best, well, it was a Code Deco deck. It's like more so.
Code Deco, KM Best, or a Collins deck. Yeah. It's just a bot.
Code Deco got to rank
simulator.
1000 with a similar deck. Someone told me. I actually just built it because I thought it would be good against bots, and someone was like, Code Deco got to 1000 with a deck like this. I was like, oh, that makes sense, because I was playing a Dracula. So I climbed with a discard deck. It was Dracula and a Modok.
Good lord.
So just like this deck, I actually just didn't have all the cards that you would put into this deck necessarily, because you would put in like Calling Wing or whatever. So it's like just a Morbius, Modok, Dracula, Apocalypse deck. And
this is the bot farming deck? This is why I saw the stats on this. I was like, oh wow, this must be pretty good. So I tried it and it's shit against real people, I feel like.
I'm not sure if it's shit against real people. I haven't tried it too much against real people. I was going to try it actually probably my next stream whenever I do that, to see how good it is against real people. But yeah, it is a bot farming deck. So it just, bots don't know how to interact with Dracula, and they just are not good at turn 6 dump turns. So it's like Modok and Morbius interact really well together, because it's like early on, Dracula and Morbius are with 0 power, so bots see 0 power and they're like, oh, I'm gonna snap this person, I'm winning. And it's just like, and then you play like Modok and Apocalypse on the last, like a big Apocalypse with free swarms,
right?
So it's just like, yeah, it just beats them pretty easily. So we climbed with like an 83% win rate. We faced maybe like 10 real people our entire climb to Infinite, and I lost to maybe like half of them. It was just, and then I lost a couple bot games. It just, sometimes the bots, they're too good. It happens.
That's crazy. That's actually, that is wild. Wow. Okay. Well, there were a couple more topics we wanted to talk about, which is Kitty compensation, as well as what decks we took to Infinite, maybe. But you kind of already talked about that.
Kind of already talked about that. But Kitty Pryde, we had discussed what would the best case scenario we thought would be, and we said it would be 6,000 tokens and they give Kitty for free. Tell us what they actually did.
They gave us 6,000 tokens and Kitty for free, and also they paid us interest, which is great. That is a really high interest rate. If you picked up Kitty, she was 6,000 collector's tokens. They've given everyone 8,000 who bought her, as well as an avatar, which I don't think is exclusive. It's just the base, so I think you can still unlock it. And everyone's going to get Kitty Pryde for free when she's fixed, but she's going to work differently.
Yeah,
so unfortunately, I never got to play the original Kitty. So I guess I'm just out of luck. I'll never have that experience in my life.
I actually don't think it'll be
it's all right.
that different. It is slightly different because they're all right. So if anyone doesn't know, the change to Kitty, because of just some gameplay mechanic like limitations, they have to change Kitty so that she automatically returns to your hand every turn at the beginning of each turn. So that means that you cannot leave her on your board anymore if you wanted to. So that means you have to play her out on turn 6 if you want her on your board, and you have to play her out for 1 energy every time because she's not free unless you beast her and discount her. But this is like a not as big of a change as you would think, because I think it makes it a little bit easier to now like play the card out as you would want. One thing that it didn't used to do is like when you used to return to your hand with something like Beast or Falcon, it wouldn't get the +2 because it wasn't counted as like returning it to your hand. It was counted as like pulled back from those other cards. But now the interaction will give the +2 from Beast or Falcon. So it basically it's the gameplay pattern you want to do anyway with Kitty. So I don't think it's going to be like a nerf in any way. It does get shut down from like Sandman.
You can't play her on turn 6 if you wanted to drop like a Doom or something as well, or like Sandman.
Unless you
counters
beast her.
I think that's
without Sandman. If you beast her, she becomes 0, and then you can play her out. So it's like I think you're going to want to play her in a bounce deck with Beast. So ideally, if you can get her to 0 power at some point, then you can keep playing her out every turn for 0.
Yeah. But just draw Beast and Kitty.
Yeah, I think Kitty will still be a very good card. I was really happy with how they did the Kitty compensation, that they gave 8,000 tokens and it for free. We were saying that was best case scenario. I am not happy that it was only for the people who bought Kitty that get the 8,000 tokens and the avatar, because they're giving everyone Kitty Pryde for free. They're basically being like, you spent 6,000 tokens on Kitty, we're going to give back the 6,000 tokens plus interest. But I think they should have given some tokens in some way to people who also didn't pick her up. Like everyone should get the 2,000 extra tokens, I think, the interest tokens, because
I was going to say, I can only imagine how it feels if you like were planning on buying Kitty before she got broken. Yeah. Like she was pinned, you were at work, you're like, all right, when I get home, I'm going to buy Kitty. But then she got locked and you couldn't buy her. And now they're giving you an additional 2,000 tokens, which I don't know the value of that. It's quite a bit though.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice. Yeah. If they're like, everyone gets 2,000. Also, if you bought Kitty, you get 6,000 additional. Something like that would have been good.
I think they needed to compensate the people who just like did, like, obviously they're giving the card for free and that's a compensation, but it's just like the fact that they're only giving the people who bought Kitty the 2,000 extra, like on top of the 6,000 they spent on Kitty. I think that just sets like a weird standard of like, some people had Kitty locked the entire time that it's been disabled until they made that announcement. They're like, oh, like I'm planning on getting it the second they re-add it to the game. So they've technically locked up their shop for Kitty Pryde, waiting for it to be re-added. Yeah. So it's like those people are just completely out of luck. They had their tokens locked in the same way that other people who bought Kitty did, right? Because they just had the shop locked.
But I do think they handled it really well. I think this was a fantastic
way better than
case.
We thought.
Complaining about this is nitpicking, and it just seems like Second Dinner can't win.
Yeah.
But
that's a good.
Thank
you for pulling that.
They
back.
handled it very well.
When I saw this,
they did a great job.
Yeah, I do sound like a very nitpicky right now. I do agree. I'm just saying like that would be. I'm just advocating for the people who didn't buy it. I do think that this is above and beyond anything that we had expected, because you and I had basically said we think it'll be like 1,500 tokens and that's it. Not Kitty for free. You know, it's just like we were just like, but they gave 8,000 tokens and Kitty for free. That is way above what they had to do, and I think that is
so. Really from that angle that you were taking, it was almost like you'd be happier if people just got 6,000 instead of the 8,000.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah. Like obviously, I just want a compensation for, like I said this last week when we were talking about what I thought it would be. I wanted everyone to get compensated fairly equally, but because I don't think that picking up Kitty really did much. Like obviously, you want to get your 6,000 tokens back, and they're giving everyone Kitty for free because like you spent tokens, other people didn't. But if they weren't going to give Kitty for free, they should definitely just give everyone the like compensation, I feel like. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was definitely above and beyond though what I thought they would do.
Yeah, so I think they handled it quite well.
Very well.
I'm happy. They're also, I think, improving the monetization and acquisition slowly but surely. I don't think they're happy with where they're at yet, so I'm sure things will continue to improve. I think they've proven themselves that they're trying to make the game better. You know, it's still very early days. It's a young game, and I have high hopes, unlike for some other card games.
Oof. Yeah. I do have high hopes as well. But at the same time, I think my hopes are much lower than they were previously. About like just like acquisition in general and whatever, because I think they triple down on like the game as a collecting game, and they've shown that time and time again that they aren't willing to like compromise on that really. So I don't know if in the future that'll eventually change, where like it'll be more accessible to like the pool 3 collecting experience, so allowing you to choose cards and not have to go through that random process as much. But we'll see.
Yeah. What deck took you to Infinite on your main account?
It was the Molded and Folded deck. So I know we talked about... It
was Molded and Folded?
Yeah, so Molded and Folded was the one that took me to Infinite. I have to click on some stuff real fast. It is just... I climbed with 6 different decks this season on my main account. Did the Pumper Challenge, did not retreat, snap turn 1. Molded and Folded was the main one. It climbed about almost half the way to Infinite. The other decks that I climbed with this season were a little bit of a Galactrod. So like Galactus with Nimrod. That was a little bit. Onslaught was Onslaught Citadel. I just built a Zabu deck with that. Patriot Leech, very good deck.
Wow.
And Sandman was another big one.
Wow, look at all these win rates. Goodness.
Yeah, you have to have a high win rate, and Monkey was also another one I climbed with.
Yeah, I can't find my stats right now, but I did.
Oh, and Sentry.
Make a video. Yeah, Sentry. Yeah. I made a video on the 5 decks that I kind of used while going to Infinite. So if anyone wants to check that out, I'll briefly go over the decks though. I played a Sentry deck. It was just my classic Sentry deck. Where's your Sentry deck? Let me see that.
Let me pull it back up. I think we talked about it a little bit last week, but I have my bad.
Oh yeah,
this is my bad
Sentry
deck. My is a good Sentry deck. This one was the good one. So
yeah, okay. So our takes are very, very different, but I feel like mine's like the perfect 12. I just can't stop winning with this deck. Another deck I did well with was Iron Monkey Bast is what I call
that
it.
was
it's
also
got Iron Man.
Also did the same. Yeah, the Iron Man though. Actually, I think I did have Iron Man in this for a little bit.
I am addicted to Bast, Hitmonkey, Iron Man, and Mystique. I just have too much fun with that.
Yeah, that sounds
because then you can Iron Man on 5, and then on 6 you can Mystique, Monkey.
So you're not running Sarah in your list.
I am.
Oh, you are.
I am. It's interesting. Yeah, sometimes you Iron Man, sometimes you don't draw Iron Man, you play Sarah instead.
So you're probably not running Wolfsbane, maybe not Killmonger, maybe not Shang-Chi.
I don't think I had Wolfsbane in this build, but there are a few different builds. I'm not set on the perfect Hitmonkey Bast sort of list just yet.
Which is questionable.
That's
but
just play Lizard before you play Bast.
That was my game plan with this deck.
Yeah, I have a Negative Monkey as well. I think Negative Monkey is really good. It's a Mr. Negative deck that also has Hitmonkey, and the main concept is not to play a negative Hitmonkey, but once you've played Mr. Negative, all your cards are cheap, so your monkey ends up being good value. Sometimes you also play him in a Wong lane. That's a lot of fun as well. And then the Moldy Rocks, the Mold 'em and Fold 'em, as you call them.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I also used a Jane Jaw, but that was before Lockjaw got nerfed or changed.
It got changed, but I think it's not a strict nerf for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking it was still good, but then when I last played Jane Jaw myself, it did awful. I see it on the tier list here that you've got pulled up.
It's number 2.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So maybe I was just unlucky or something, but I played it. Let me pull up my stats here.
Like, I don't think it's actually number 2 because it's a low popularity and like average. Like its keep rate is like the same as like the rest of the A tier, but its win rate's a little bit lower. So it's kind of just like deceptively high.
Can you
yeah, sorry, I'll pull it up.
Pop that open. Let's see. Okay. I ran this exact same list that you have pulled up here, and I went 0 and 4, and then I moved on to a different deck.
Yeah, the exact same list is below 50% win rate, so it's not surprising that it's like not the best. Yeah,
that was bad for me. I was like, I'm gonna make a video on it. It was called Jane Jaw is still good.
Wait, you made the video?
I felt no.
I
made
you went
the
0
deck
and 4
title.
And made it. Oh man, that's some
No,
balls.
like, I'm like, I'm not gonna make this video. Jane Jaw not too good right now.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. I'll have to mess around with it again.
Yeah, I saw it. This like I was looking at the tier list the other day, and I was like, Lockjaw, why is it so high? And I don't get it. I think it's just because it's low popularity. I think like size, the good decks are just like being dragged down in the win rates just because they're played so much. So it's like I think that like Electro Ramp is better than it lets on because it's played so much that it's just like it's warping the entire meta around it. I think Galactus is better than it lets on a little bit too. Like obviously people aren't playing like the best 12 decks also in these like large sample sizes. So it's like if you want the best 12 cards, they're going to be much better win rates, I feel like, than
it's really hard to get these sample sizes up because not everyone has all the cards, you know?
Yep.
So some people are making like slight changes and stuff like that. So it's difficult, but 270,000 games.
Yeah, it is a pretty good sample size so far because this is just latest patch, which happened 4 days ago. So it's like over 4 days, this is what it looked like. You can't really do last 30 days because it just includes completely different patch data. So it's just like Shuri's going to be number 1.
Yeah,
so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So latest patch, a lot of people playing this game. It's a fun game.
Very fun game. I'm enjoying it for now.
Me too.
I don't know.
I think I'm enjoying it way more than the Shuri month.
There's a
which
new
was last month
card game coming out that has been getting a little bit of news that I only saw because there's another content creator, Willow. I don't know if you know Willow. He's known for his Galactus.
Dual Force.
Yeah, Dual Force. He's the only one that I see excited or talking about this game, and I had no idea it was even coming out. But DC is coming out with a card game. And
DC, if you want to sponsor us, we are available.
I'll play it for a sponsorship. But I don't know if I would play it outside of that.
We'll have to see. They haven't shown. Yeah, they haven't shown much about it, but
yeah,
I'll wait for.
It looks closer to like Magic the Gathering, I think, than to like Snap. From what I've seen, like it seems like a little bit more involved, which I don't know. How that'll be.
I could be wrong, but I feel like Snap is, there's a lot of thought behind Snap. It's a beautiful game, like the animations and everything, and they keep adding more and more animations and everything. I feel like Dual Force or the DC game saw how good Snap was doing, how much money they were printing, and they were like, oh shit, that game we started working on but we completely canceled, like let's bring it back and let's milk the DC.
Yeah,
I feel like that's what's happening.
Might be.
But also please sponsor me.
They actually announced DC Dual Force before Marvel Snap announced, so it's one of those things that like they said it was coming, but maybe they had to like readjust some things when Snap came out. They're like, wait a second, this game is just way better than what we were making. I don't know.
I think they had a team of 2 people working on it for 2 years or something.
Is that what
I'm making this?
Oh, you're making it up.
I'm making this up.
All right.
Yeah. I have not.
Okay. It's yeah. I don't know, but yeah, we'll have to see what comes out of that. Obviously we're card gamers, so maybe we'll take a look at it, but we'll see. But yeah, I think that wraps up the pod. Pod number 4 down.
Number 4. We have surpassed most podcasts. Most of them died before 3 episodes.
Is that true? Are you making this stat up too right now, or is that a real stat?
No, I believe that's true.
Okay.
Let me look it up real quick.
You're just making up stats, but that's what we do here on the Dekks and Dera podcast. Where all the stats are made up, and we're definitely not using real data, but we are mostly.
How How many episodes most podcasts? I don't know how to even search this on Twitch.
On Twitch?
What the hell on Twitch? On Google. On Google.
Obviously, he's got Twitch brain. How many podcasts do people get to before they die?
44% of podcasts have less than 3 episodes.
All right, yeah. So
that's it.
We're above the average. We're above average.
We're above average.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
We're making it. All right. Thanks for watching or listening, whichever one you're doing. But yeah, this is on my channel, obviously, for YouTube this week. Next week will be with Dekksters, as always. I don't know how many people make it to the last 5 seconds of a video, but thanks everybody.
If you made it here,
if you made it and you're not subscribed to Dekkster or me, what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing with yourself?
I don't know. But yeah. Do you have any last words, Dekkster?
I love you all. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check this out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or whatever it's called. We should be available on pretty much any platform. If we're not available on something, do let us know and we can look into it. But I think we're available everywhere.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then subscribe, I guess. Like the video if you're watching the video. If you're not, if you're on the podcast, you can do a review, but only if it's 5 stars. That's it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you guys later.